welcome into tonight here another topic of the week video. Christmas was good for me, and I hope the holidays have been good for you too. This topic is the last of the Christmas topics, so it's the last positive Resident Evil topic of the month. This week's topic was submitted by Angel89, and her topic is Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, and Claire Redfield, all four protagonists of the first two games. Many characters come and go, but these four are the core and backbone of the series. Why do you think that is? What sets them all apart from each other as protagonists of Resident Evil, as well as other video game characters? Why do fans love these four so much? Best moments, best lines? Also a shallow tidbit, but what is your favorite character design incarnation for these four? Now, when you want to start talking about these characters, there's something that I've noticed a lot in a lot of different series. This covers basically any medium. But any ongoing series, you know, the original characters are typically the ones that a lot of people are going to like the most. They're the ones you're going to see are the most popular. Certain times, you'll see characters that become breakout characters that are introduced later on. But for the most part, the original characters are generally going to be considered the most popular. If you look at any ongoing series, like, for example, TV shows, but this works for pretty much anything, whether it's movies, books, comics, TV shows. But let's just talk about it for a TV show. But you watch a TV show, and sometimes some characters sort of get replaced for whatever reason. And, sometimes they bring in characters to replace them, and they're just never as popular, or they're never liked as much as the originals. Or sometimes they switch out the entire cast in some series, and it's like, very rarely does that go over well, in terms of just switching out the entire cast. Unless, if the original cast is even remotely likable, because I'm not talking about, so sometimes when original characters are not very likable. But, but for the most part, characters are at least remotely likable. So when you bring in new characters, it's just like, never really is big. If you look at Stargate SG-1, when if you're not familiar with Stargate SG-1, a classic sci-fi show from the late 90s into the sort of, late 2000s? I don't remember the exact dates, but it was on for a while. And Richard Dean Anderson was Colonel O'Neill in that. Eventually he left the show and they replaced him with Colonel Mitchell. It's very clearly a Colonel O'Neill 2.0. But it's like, he wasn't... I don't ever remember anyone really loving Colonel Mitchell. I mean, people like the actor, and Colonel Mitchell was fine. I liked him fine in the show. But he never really... It's like, he just... Of course, he doesn't reach the levels of Colonel O'Neill. I mean, he's also not Richard Dean Anderson, but that's besides the point. But it's the whole thing of these characters are introduced later, so they're not nearly as popular. So when you have the original four characters of Resident Evil, at least the original four protagonists, because there are plenty of characters, you have Chris, Jill, Leon, and Claire. Those are the main four. And they're the ones that are some of the most popular characters in the series. And it's not hard to see why. For a lot of people, these are the characters that they were introduced to. And especially for Leon, for anyone who's introduced to the series in Resident Evil 4, a lot of people are going to hold some nostalgic feelings for these characters. Playing them, particularly if they played them when they were younger. But even if it's like these are the characters you start with. And so you wonder why people care about these characters a little more than other ones like Jake from Resident Evil 6 or Sheva from Resident Evil 5. Those characters have their fans. I'm not saying they don't. But they're not nearly as popular as the original four. And I think a lot of that does come down to they were the first. So it's really hard to deny that, original characters tend to be some of the most popular in a long on-running series. The ones that stick around the longest because, well, they've been around, people have gotten attached to them over the years. And, when you see him in multiple games, it's like, well, yeah, of course. We like to see what Chris and Jill are doing over the years. And we like to see what Leon and Claire are doing over the years. Which is why it's great to see them evolve as characters. When you see, like, Chris and Jill, in the BSAA, Leon working as a government agent, Claire working with TerraSave. It's nice to see these aspects of their characters, and see them move forward from their original portrayals. Now, what sets them apart from each other, Chris and Jill are very similar in what they are, because they're basically like SWAT for Raccoon City. That's what STARS is. So they're trained, so it's obvious that we can understand why they can use weapons and stuff. This is what they train for. So it's also understandable why they would survive. It's like, okay, you would expect some people who have this training would be better at surviving than your average Joe. This is why all four of them, which is probably pretty much why every character protagonist pretty much does have some kind of training. But Chris and Jill are pretty similar, but Leon and Claire get to be really different, and I think this is something that they're so different from Chris and Jill. Claire is Chris's sister, and she's looking for him, which is your connection to the original games. So it's nice to see that it's like, okay, no, here's Chris's sister, and now she's looking for him. And Leon's just a rookie cop who came in who was late for the wrong day. Well, to be honest, being late saved him from the zombie apocalypse. At least being just turned into a zombie. Then he walked right into it. Good job, Leon. But I think something that a lot of people sort of like about these characters, and this is just kind of speculation on my part, but I think it's the fact that they are normal people. Relatively speaking, of course. But compared to other video game characters, it's like, there are a lot of characters who are very fantastic. Mario, Sonic, Master Chief, Kratos, and a plethora of other characters. You can look at the smorgasbord. Sora from Kingdom Hearts, Link from Legend of Zelda, all these different characters are in some ways fantastic. But the Resident Evil series, despite the fact that it can get ridiculous, the characters are in some ways kind of grounded. There can be unintentional cheese and even some purposeful cheese, but the characters themselves, if you were just writing a description of these characters, they just sound like normal people. And I do think that it is kind of something that I've sort of noticed when I was playing through. It's like, and you play through some of these games, or at least when you're watching some of these games in Let's Play, since I haven't played all of them, it's like, you like these characters, and it's like, you like seeing them survive and fight through and, and make it. And it's sort of that thing which you see in some movies. It's you want to see some of these people that you can connect to on some level survive and make it through. So when you see these characters survive, it's like, it's nice to see, normal characters. None of them have superpowers. It's not like Street Fighter where they're throwing Hadoukens and stuff around. Even though in the Project Crosszone games, Chris was very interested in that. But that's besides the point. But what sets them apart, from each other is not really a whole lot. To be perfectly honest, if we're talking what sets them apart, it's mostly personality. Chris and Jill are probably a little more serious, and Leon and Claire are a little more lighthearted. They're a little bit younger, but they're all going through these horrors and experiencing all the crap. When you see, it's nice to see them having grown up a little bit, particularly when you see Leon. Leon is one of the biggest changes, where he's now a sassy government agent who's had lots of training and lots more experience. So you see him in Resident Evil 4, he's kicking butt, and and it's nice to see him be a little bit more jovial about stuff. That really does set him apart from the others in that no one else is really like that jovial. You can definitely see how Devil May Cry spun off from one of the old Resident Evil 4 builds. Chris and Jill are still very serious, but it makes sense because now that, then they end up being part of a military organization that fights against bioterrorism. And Claire, and especially because you don't really see much of Claire past the original, era, specifically Code Veronica, because that was the last time she was seen in the game of that era. When you see her in, Degeneration, and it's like, so it's nice to see she's joined a group that's helped fighting, even if they're not there's not they're not toting guns or anything and shooting stuff. It's more activism, and it's saying, okay, so you have all these different characters doing different things. And I think originally there wasn't as much setting them apart as there is now. I mean, even if the writing of the series has gone off the rails, when you look at the way their characters sort of developed over time, it's like you see them sort of split off into stuff that became their speciality. So it's actually really, it's really nice to see them them grow as characters over time. And I think that they ended up being set apart far more as time went on than when they started. And I do think that's one thing that a lot of people really like to see, is when you see these characters grow as time goes on. I think the constant time skips can be a bit troublesome in terms of the way they write the stories, but that's a topic for a different time. I think fans just really like these characters because, I mean, when a series gets popular, a lot of people are just going to really like those characters anyway. I mean, you look at a game like Persona 5, and it's like, yeah, the characters are great. I love all the characters of Persona 5. You know, they wouldn't have been nearly as popular if Persona 5 wasn't as popular. So when Resident Evil being really popular and, like, really popularizing the survival horror genre, yeah, you know, people look at these characters and it's like, oh, wow, you know, this is Chris and Jill, this is Leon and Claire. So, and you get attached to them through the story and, you know, it's them surviving. A lot of it comes kind of bog standard, if you ask me. Like I said before, it's like the original character, so you'll like those characters a little bit more than, you know, recent ones. Even though I do like some recent characters, you know, and even with someone like Ada, who's a more of a side character, she's a supporting character really in Resident Evil 2 and 4. You know, there's a reason why she ended up having her own mode, and a couple modes actually in Resident Evil 4. It's because she was just so freaking popular. But yeah, I think that's about it. There's to talk about with why they're popular. It's not really too complicated, I don't think. So my favorite moments, I know someone would probably point it out if I didn't. One of the best moments and lines for Jill, you know, is "You're almost a Jill sandwich" when Barry rescues her. It's an iconic moment, and even some of the few games reference it. It's just, that meme is just iconic. It's god tier meme. There aren't a whole lot of lines from them that I really think are super memorable, except for Resident Evil 4. Now maybe it's the one I played, because I played that game like 5 times. I really love Resident Evil 4. But Leon, some of Leon's like sassy lines are hilarious. Like when Salazar's like, "I'm going to send my right hand after you," and he's like, "Your hand comes off." Just like, Leon. I do like some of the lines that Leon has. Like, to be a little bit more serious, I like some of the lines that Leon has involving Krauser in Resident Evil 4. Because it really does, because Krauser is introduced in Resident Evil 4. He has no prior established character before that game, so that's the first time you see him. So I think they at least did a solid job with Leon's interactions with Krauser to actually sort of develop that, relationship, so that we kind of get a feeling of, okay, so this is a guy he used to work with and someone who he used to respect. So when we get lines from him, like talking, you know, you even have some lines of being like, okay, well, what happened to you? You used to be a good guy. I think that's the little text that comes up if you examine him after you beat him in the ruins area. But especially when Leon gets angry when he finds out that that Krauser only kidnapped Ashley just so that he could gain Sadler's trust, and Leon's pissed. It's like, yeah, despite the fact that he jokes, it's like, yeah, no, he takes his job seriously, and you put an innocent person in danger just so that you could fulfill your own agenda, and it's like, you know, I like that, you know, and I do like some of those more little serious moments in Resident Evil 4. Yeah, going back to being funny, I think the Ada, wait, in Resident Evil 2 is always pretty funny. The Resident Evil 1 and 2, they definitely had more cheesy lines. Some of them are more memorable from just how ridiculous they are. You know, like, what's weird is sometimes, like, I think back to some of the lines from Resident Evil, and it's just, you know, Barry, to be honest, had some of the best lines, but he's not one of the protagonists. It's like when they say things like, "Chris, Barry," it's like, the voice acting could be awkward, so, but it's still kind of funny looking back. I actually do admit, though, that in terms of some of the lines, it's really kind of hard to pick, you know, and now I'm thinking about it, some lines I like from Chris are probably from Resident Evil 5. Even though Resident Evil 5 does some dumb things, it's an understatement. When Chris is talking to Sheva about, finding Jill, and he's, believing, that that she's still alive. And even when Chris meets Jill, like when he first sees her, okay, I don't know why I didn't think of this, because this is one of my favorite moments of Resident Evil 5. When they meet up with Wesker and Excella, and you see, and Wesker pulls the hood off of Jill, and Chris sees her, and he has his gun up, and he just all of a sudden, Jill, it's me. And that soft voice he uses, it's like, okay, you want to tell me these two aren't in love? Like, I'm sorry, but like there's certain ways that you talk like that. They're not just partners. It's like, yeah, and even when he holds her and, after they get the mind control device off of her, it's like, and it's so weird because that moment, or those moments I should say, in Resident Evil 5 when he interacts with Jill are some of the most memorable moments in the games. Even more so than Wesker's moments, to be perfectly honest. Even his memetic lines, complete global saturation. It's like, those moments with Chris and Jill are some of my favorites. And even though I don't remember all of the lines, I think it's more so the emotion behind those lines that really kind of stuck out to me. I mean, it's really, frankly, there should have been more Jill and Chris interaction in that game because, man, those moments really, really work well. And I think that in a better game, those moments would have been series highlights. For Claire, okay. One of my favorite lines from Claire is when she calls Alfred a cross-dressing freak. Just, that line is funny. It genuinely is funny. Code Veronica has some great lines. I do like the scenes in Code Veronica when Chris and Claire interact. It's like, it's really funny when you think about it, because these two are siblings, and their motivations overlap, and like, especially when they're trying to find each other. It's like, it's such a shame that we don't get more scenes like that we got in Code Veronica with them interacting, because it's almost like the kind of like the Chris and Jill scenes, but it was like when Chris interacts with Claire, it's like, okay, you can really see that, how much they care about each other. It's the emotions behind those scenes that really hit more so than the lines that they say. And I really, it's like, it's their siblings. Let the Redfield siblings interact more. 2K 2018, soon to be 2019. But it's like, yeah, I'd like to see more of that. For my favorite moment, okay, one of my favorite moments for Leon, I mentioned this a little bit in terms of lines, but one of my favorite moments is just the Krauser knife fight. That is probably one of the most awesome things in the series, and it's really something that shows Leon's skills. Like, okay, we see him do all sorts of cool stuff throughout the game, but seeing him do that knife fight against Krauser, who is super powered by that point, it's nice to see, like, him being that, like, just awesome. And it's just a cool scene. Like, there's a reason why just typing in Krauser knife fight, you just say the knife fight. People Resident Evil fans know what that scene is. It's iconic in and of itself. I also like it, like, okay, I know I'm picking several from Resident Evil 4, but, I did like the scene when Ada first meets Leon in Resident Evil 4, and his response is more like so it is true, you working for Wesker. And I really like that because it's another thing that really shows that his character has grown since Resident Evil 2, because he was just like, oh, Ada, wait, and now it's like, okay, so he knows the game. he knows that she's a spy, and he knows that her allegiance is temporary. And she's not evil, and I wouldn't even consider her a bad person. She's neutral. She's totally neutral. She doesn't really take sides. She just does her job. And Leon understands that. And it's really nice to see his character have grown to where he doesn't just fall head over heels for Ada the second she shows up and then just starts sort of being like, Ada, Ada. So that was a nice moment. And it's funny because, some of the meme-tic moments really aren't even from the main characters, because I'm trying to think, because it's like you think of lines like complete global saturation and you're almost a Jill sandwich, but those aren't said by the main characters. Main characters don't have as many memes, funnily enough. But, and it's funny because most of the time there's not even a whole lot of really, genuinely memorable lines. There are some good ones. And this is just from me trying to remember off the top of my head all of these lines. But so there are some that are really memorable, but... And I'm sure, if you have memorable lines from the series, you can comment below your favorite Resident Evil lines from the main characters, because I know there are some that I'm forgetting that, that are good. So, please, please comment below on that. Now, my favorite designs, to finish this one off. For Chris, I'd probably say my favorite is his Revelations design. I like the way they started designing his face in Resident Evil 5, and I would like his Resident Evil 5 design a lot if he wasn't Chris Redfield. And it's like, if he was slimmed down more to where he looked like any other incarnation of him, I think that would have been a really great design for him. But with Revelations, it's like, okay, now he looks more normal. And I like the way he looks, and I like, the way he's geared up. So, and I think overall it's one of his best designs. It's really nice to see that the Revelations design are what they used in Project Crosszone. Now, my favorite for Jill, I like a lot of Jill's outfits. The least favorite one would probably be the Resident Evil 3 one, just because it's more fan servicey than anything. My favorite design would probably be her Resident Evil 5 BSAA outfit. The one that you see her wearing in the flashbacks. It's like, I don't know. It's just, I like the way it looks. It's sort of simple, clean, professional. And I like the hat. And I think Jill looks good with longer hair. That may be more of a personal thing. I think, she looks great regardless, but I like the way she looks with longer hair and the hat. I mean, I also like her Revelations design too. And I know some people are going to say, okay, yes, it's a skin-tight wetsuit, but, it's still a good design, especially if it fits the game. For Claire, this one's a little tough. I would probably say her original outfit is one of my favorites, along with her degeneration one. Of her original outfit, because there are several different variations. One of my favorites my favorite of those would probably be her Dark Side Chronicles version. I don't know, I like the way that one looks the best out of all the different versions that we've seen over the years of her original outfit. But her degeneration outfit is I also like that. It's different from her other ones. But it still feels right, You look at some character designs and it clicks and it feels right. I'm like, I like the way that it looks on Claire, and it has the right colors. But it's more pinkish. Okay, well, to be fair, her old outfit was kind of pinkish instead of red. But she's got the pink and the white, so it's nice and I think it looks nice. Now for Leon's tough. He has several good designs. I think my favorite design might be Resident Evil 6. I mean, I like his Resident Evil 6 design. I also like his design in, what was it? Damnation, in the second CGI movie. But, and I think his Resident Evil 6 design, I like the way it looks, and, And also, you know, being more HD than some of the other ones. And that's kind of been sort of mostly what they've been doing with his look since then. But, I like the jacket. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just more of a personal preference for the way his jacket looks in Resident Evil 6. It's like, I don't know, it looks like a cool jacket. But I like how the jackets has become a thing for him ever since Resident Evil 4. His Resident Evil 4 jacket, it's iconic, but, you know, I don't think it looks as cool as his Resident Evil 6 one. So yeah, I think that's about it. I really do like the 4 main characters of, you know, Resident Evil, and there's a reason why they've persisted. You know, they're likable characters. They really are likable characters. And it's nice to see them over the years, even if some of them, like Claire and Jill, don't get as much love as they should. And, well, to be fair, Leon and Chris have been a little mistreated too. But I want to remain positive as much as I can with this. So, yeah, I think that's about it for this topic. If you want to submit a topic to me, you can comment below if you're on YouTube or if you're on Tumblr. Send me an ask, put topic : and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure to follow the rules I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. So what do you like about the 4 original main characters of Resident Evil? What favorite moments and lines do you have from them? Please comment below. And thank you for watching.